It's a sin killing animals and having them.
You cannot force anyone to say that you have to consume a vegetarian diet because
So it's not a big deal like, killing animals and having them.
So today I would like to ask you that you would have seen on social media and mainstream media as well that there is a debate around vegetarians versus non-vegetarians, right? So would like to take your opinion that what do you think about this topic?
Like, it depends on people and their mindset. Like few of the vegetarians, like I have few of my vegetarian friends, and they're like, it's a sin killing animals and having them. And well, I have that point of view. Like I'm a non-vegetarian, and I have that point of view that it's fine. It's just
basically it's up to the person. It's not on. It's just not. It's not right to say that it's good to consume vegetarian and it's just good to consume non-vegetarian. But as a doctor, I would like to say that vegetarian diet is much better. It is healthier, and the human body is made for a vegetarian diet. Yeah, so though we've become omnivorous, that is both
Consumption of
veg and non-veg, it is better to consume vegetarian diet.
even plants have life, and sure, like having that, you're plucking them, even they get hurt. So it's not a big deal like, killing animals and having them.
Okay. So that's the debate about the ethics of eating animals, right? And some vegetarians say that's a sin to kill animals. But you maintain a stance that it's not that big of a deal because one has to eat either plants or animals to survive, and when we eat plants, even then they are also dying, is what you are saying, right? Okay. So do you, like, in all honesty, in your heart, do you genuinely believe that plucking an apple from a tree is equivalent to slitting an animal like a chicken? Yeah, actually there's a ton of research on this subject, and of course you being a doctor would know about it, that a well-balanced whole food plant-based diet is much more healthier. And on that debate, that revolves around two issues. One is the health aspect, which you already talked about, and in addition to that there's the ethical aspect of it, right? So what do you think on that side, on the ethics of consuming veg or non-veg?
See, I'm all for animal welfare and all that. But again, as I said, it's up to the person.
Yeah.
You cannot force anyone to say that you have to consume a vegetarian diet because it's the ethical issues and all that. But considering ethical issues, it is good to promote vegetarian diet from now on.
And you said you are all for animal welfare.
I am a pet lover. I am an animal lover.
Okay, I'm not sure, but I believe that.
Okay.
So
You believe that?
yeah, I believe that.
Okay. So essentially, I know that this is a common myth that people think that plants also feel pain.
Yeah.
While what we have been taught in biology is that they have life, but they do not have a nervous system to perceive the life. So they do not have a subjective awareness, and they do not have the capacity to feel pain and suffering. Whereas an animal has the capacity to feel pain and suffering, right? So, so with this, that's okay. That's okay. And the objective of this conversation is to educate people on certain topics. With this information, what do you have to say about this whole discussion around ethics of eating animal flesh?
I just want to say this, that I'm gonna be a vegetarian soon. I actually didn't know about that.
I have reduced my consumption of non-veg. I consume rarely non-veg rarely, maybe once or twice a month. I'm trying to reduce it so that I can, make it better for the society and for the animals.
Okay. So essentially, you are trying to reduce non-veg because
It's not only the consumption; it's also the goods like leather goods.
very, very true.
Yeah, all those things and beauty products and all that, which are
cruelty-free.
exactly.
Exactly. So you have actually broadened your horizon of animal-derived product consumption. You're not only trying to reduce animal flesh in your diet, but also other commodities like what you wear and what you put on your skin, right? And the reason why you are doing it is because you don't want those animals to suffer, right? Okay. Then earlier you said that it's a personal choice for someone because legally people are allowed to consume animal flesh as well, right? Um, but however, the reason that you gave for your reduction of animal derived product, when others consume that, then they are actually causing violence and cruelty on animals, right? So,
So the only way is to propagate, the knowledge and the awareness about what's going on in the world, what's going on with animals. So that they can understand and they can adapt to whatever they want to. You, because as I said earlier, you cannot force anybody.
have you heard of the term vegan?
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
It's basically you can't wear a leather jacket, you can't eat non-veg and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's almost correct. Um, that is the application of veganism, right? So, unlike vegetarian and non-vegetarian, which is essentially a diet, veganism is a philosophy of life. Of course, we can't force someone because legally it is allowed. You gave a very interesting point that spreading of knowledge is one way. I think that is the first step. Second step is application of that knowledge. Yeah, because in India, if you see, we have open slaughterhouses. We go past that every day, right? And we see what's happening to them. So that's knowledge. But there's no application of knowledge because we don't use that knowledge in our life. We don't empathize with those animals. So I think it's very important for people like us to have these kinds of debate so that person can put things into perspective. Most people, in my opinion, are compassionate by default, willing to believe that if you see a person being abused on the street, or for that matter, a dog being abused on the street, you might intervene that in your own capacity, right? But at the same time, when we think about chickens, and I'm talking about chickens because that is the most commonly abused animals by humans, we are actively paying for their murder, right?
That's true. That's completely true.
A personal choice cannot have a victim, right?
That is true, but as I said, awareness,
Yeah.
make the person understand that
Yeah.
this is what is happening.
Yeah.
Then when they understand,
Yeah.
then they can adapt to whatever the
And yeah, so I think we'll leave that topic there. What others are doing, I'll come back. I'll bring the focus back to Dr. Kavya. You said that you are reducing your non-veg consumption, right?
yes.
And I am assuming that you have a plan to completely eliminate.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That's really nice to know. And you already talked about leather products. You already talked about beauty products. There's one more aspect that I would like to touch upon. That is of dairy.
That's very difficult. See, in India, it's not that easy to get dairy, substitutes for dairy. It's not easily available. So maybe as time goes, or because it's as a working woman, it's very difficult for me to make all those products and all that. So once maybe like as in the Western world, it's very much easily
substitutes are easily
accessible.
True.
So once that is there, maybe.
Makes sense.
Actually,
Something to think about.
I guess a little bit of action can help in the better future of animals and even the human race. I feel just a little small step
Small
by every individual.
And that step is to become a vegan.
Yeah, vegan, but for non-vegetarians, it might be very difficult for them to leave non-veg at once.
I know.
But a little by little, first turning into a vegetarian and then eventually a vegan.
That's very true that accessibility can be an issue. Before I discuss accessibility, I hope you know why I'm talking about dairy products, right? Under the banner of animal cruelty, because dairy industry is also as cruel as any other animal derived industry, right? They are subjected to constant cycles of pregnancy. The male calves are sent to the slaughter industry, beef industry, and the leather industry. Leather is what? It's the same supply chain. Like the dairy milk product is consumed at the start of the supply chain. Leather and beef is consumed at the end of the supply chain. And plus, the females in the dairy industry, they are in a way, for the lack of better word, I think I'll use sexually exploited because of constant cycles of pregnancy, and the process that is most used nowadays is called artificial insemination, where the semen of the bull is collected. It's very traumatic if you see the videos and the pics. Yeah. So you are clear on why I'm bringing dairy under the banner of animal cruelty. Second, on the accessibility part, and I'm very fortunate that you are a doctor, so I can ask you this question: that when we talk about consumption of milk, there's one thing. There's one thing as taste, and then there's the other thing as nutrition. Taste is, again, we have established it's a desire.
Yeah.
On the nutritional side, we are essentially getting two things from it, right? Calcium and a little bit of protein, right? So don't you think that we have enough substitutes in the traditional Indian plant-based diet for calcium and protein as well?
We do, but the thing is, we have to implement, we have to take it, we have to consume it. So when a person becomes a vegan, it's not easy because he has to look into the diet, like what are the things he's losing out on, and what are the things he has to substitute to lose whatever he has lost.
Very true.
You know, so we have to look after ourselves as well first.
Very
Yeah.
true. I always tell this pointer. I always tell this to new vegans that okay, it's very good that you have become a vegan for animal ethics, but please be mindful of what you're eating, especially the nutrients that you have eliminated. Ensure that you are getting it from other sources, right? And yes, there will be some inconvenience because we have to change our lifestyle because we have been habituated in a certain way, right? Then a question that I would like to ask you and probably the society as well: what is more inconvenient? The switch for me is that more inconvenient than the life that that animal is subjected to. That's a fair comparison, right?
Actually, yeah.
In fact, it's an unfair comparison in the sense that the switch for me will take what, like 21 days is what they say to change a habit, right? For them, it's their whole life, which is full of misery and then eventually killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely.
So my only request to you is to read up more on veganism. For that, what I'll do is I'll give you resource cards, right? Right now, you talked about plants feel pain, which I've already talked about. You can do your own research. There is not a single peer-reviewed research paper which proves plant sentience, that is their capacity to feel pain and suffering. But when you do research on veganism, your mind will tell you, or your mind will try to convince you to stick to your non-vegetarian habit, right? So it will come up with more trivial reasons, like what about the food chain? What about this? What about the livelihood of the people who are employed in that industry, right?
Yeah.
Even though we don't really...
It's gonna bring a big impact to them. So.
It will, but in all honesty, we don't think about the livelihood when we consume non-veg, right? It's just a justification that we are trying to give ourselves to defend our actions, right? And there is an elaborate counter argument for all these points. There are more than like 50 points like these. So my request to you is that don't just stop at the next argument that comes to your mind, that okay, food chain, so maybe consuming chickens is justified. I'm saying that do your research beyond that.
But it's going to take time.
It's going to take
It's
time.
definitely going to take time.
Do you think if you have a vegan community around you, for example, if you're part of some WhatsApp group where people are already vegan coming from a very similar background as you are, right? In the same sex, same age group, probably same occupation, and how they are managing it. Do you think then it will make it much easier for someone like you to transition to veganism?
Definitely. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so then you'll be glad to know that I am a vegan, right? And Bangalore,
I guessed.
yeah. And I was a non-vegetarian. I turned vegetarian for animal ethics reason, just like how you are doing it, right? But then when I learned about the dairy industry, then I was like, what is the point of converting into a vegetarian, right? Anyone who consumes dairy products can also consume beef products, because from the perspective of the victim, it doesn't make any difference. Maybe in my mind, I have a moral high ground consuming dairy product but not beef product, but from the perspective of the victim, it's the same, right? And if we are doing it for the animal ethics reason, then going vegan becomes the most logical step. The only problem with veganism is that it has been portrayed in a very wrong way by the mainstream media. When we think about veganism, you also said that in Western world we have substitutes, so people think about almond milk, which is extremely costly in India, soya milk and all of this stuff, right? But what I tell people is that is needed only if you are trying to substitute the taste aspect. On the health aspect, because the Indian traditional plant-based diet has such a rich source of all the nutrients. We don't have to take an almond milk for from the nutritional standpoint, right? We have so many options in pulses, lentils, so many spices which are rich in calcium. And I'll take this last moment to just clarify that while vegetarian and non-vegetarian is a diet, vegan is not a diet.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It's a philosophy of life actually, where a person rejects the commodity status of animals. We see that animals are not here for our use or abuse. A diet would not talk about the leather product and the beauty products, right? But we are still trying to eliminate that because animals have been commodified in one way or the other to make that product for our use. They are here for their own existence, and I think we should not infringe in their personal spaces.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Kavya, so much for your time. So I hope this was a decent conversation.
Yeah, it was indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sincerely hope that you think more in this direction and probably take action and become vegan one day, right? And thank you so much for your time. And yeah, that's it.